Hey, Armand here with the forecast for the week of April 28th of 2025. Well, last week was last week. This week is this week. You don't get pearls of wisdom like that everywhere. I'm just saying. This week is this week. The big intensity this week, the big event is Pluto's station to retrograde on May 4th. It's really at the end of this week on Sunday, May 4th. It's also at the active first quarter moon. We'll get there in just a minute. First, we have to say that we're starting this week waxing out of the new moon on Sunday, the 27th. The Taurus new moon is essentially it's a pretty nice moon we have there, and it gets us started on a nice cycle for this month. There's things happening and all of that. We're having a very active full moon in the middle of the month of May, that is, when we have the Scorpio full moon. But we have probably a reasonable start to this lunar cycle. Of course, early in the lunar cycle, typically we don't do a lot. It's not necessarily the most active point in time, and that's kind of okay. Still in all, if you're looking for setting intentions around anything to do with Taurus matters, finances are a good example, or material possessions and things like that. It's a good idea to think about that not on Sunday, the 27th, more set those intentions closer to Monday, Tuesday type of time. When you can see the moon in the sky, the crescent moon in the sky, that's a good time to actually start doing something. You don't have to do a lot, you just want to act in some way. Cosmos responds to action much better than simply setting intentions and words. You'll set intentions, light your candles, that sort of thing, that's fine. But it's a really good idea to also go ahead and do something when you can see the moon in the evening sky over in the west. Now, Venus is going to leave Pisces, and she's still in the shadow of her retrograde, but she's going to leave on Tuesday and go into Aries. That should kind of perk up social situations a little bit. But the first thing that Venus does when she gets into Aries is to meet with Neptune. Now, Venus, and that's on the 30th. We're still talking Tuesday, and this is pretty much a Tuesday kind of thing. It'll spill over a bit into Wednesday, but Tuesday. Um, Venusian matters, which would be, finances, romance, and things like that spark up a little bit. Valuations spark up a little bit. And meeting Neptune in Aries, we're getting this sense of a little overly dramatic about things. Now, when Venus was in Pisces meeting Neptune, very dreamy sort of energy. It could be kind of like, well, I'll just speak about it in terms of love and romance. It could be like, oh, giving everything for love, or Neptune. It could also be complete hopelessness. Oh, never, or this is never going to work out, and that type of thing. In Aries, I would say that it sort of shifts a little bit over from romance even to sexuality, and there's this kind of, well, again, either idealization, that's going to be wonderful, it would be wonderful, it will be wonderful, it is wonderful, that's great. Or, of course, then we have the other side of Neptune, which is the sense of impossibility. You might also, though, in financial matters and so on, you might also get a little bit over optimistic, a little bit too quick to do something. We'll probably see the markets the markets have been fluctuating a couple of percentage points every day anyways. There's not really much of a change indicated, but we'll see the flip-floppy thing continue. Especially, I think, we're liable to get the wrong information or overreact a little bit Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have to see how that plays out. It is a more active social vibe, a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more like let's get out there. Venus is, when she clears the shadow of her retrograde next week, it'll definitely be really go time. But we start to get more of a sense of being able to move forward as Venus gets into Aries. And that little conjunction to Neptune, well, we'll have to see how it plays out. But again, it's not the most realistic energy that we have going for us. Right? It's not terribly realistic. So be careful. On the other hand, partnership asteroid Juno is also really big. Now, Venus is what you want, what you value. Juno is what you got, right? That's the difference between Venus and Juno. Juno is retrograde at the end of Scorpio, and she's getting two real hot aspects this week. She's getting a steadying trine from Saturn early in the week. If there's a need to sort of stabilize a relationship, and Juno is not about new things really. It's about it's really relationship commitment. And if there's a need to stabilize thing early in the week, this Saturn Juno trine should be very, very helpful. Later in the week, however, actually on the day of Pluto's station, then Uranus is going to oppose Juno. Juno in Pluto's home sign of Scorpio. That stabilization, if it didn't work, this is a kind of explosive aspect. Now, explosive means that you're liable to get a rapid change. And of course, with Pluto stationing, it's going to be all the more intense. It could blow apart a relationship. It could also bring it together in a really deep way. Whichever, it's very likely to come across as unexpected and sort of sudden. Probably, the weekend, the third and the fourth. It's probably happening on that weekend. We'll have to see. If you got relationship stuff going on, well, good for you anyway, right? You got something to talk about in that department of life. You're already ahead of the game. But it is, well, sometimes you look at it for other people too. Sometimes you've got other folks in your life that you have to, keep this in mind for my clients, right? You got to keep this in mind for my clients. But we have a lot of, relationship energy this week. Venus conjunct Neptune, and then the Juno aspects. A lot of stuff pulling over in that direction. And then Pluto stations to retrograde. Now, Pluto is retrograde for about half the year. So, he's been retrograde since mid-October. Well, he's been direct since mid-October, and he'll be retrograde until he's retrograde for about half the year. It's not a big deal that he's retrograde because he's retrograde often. What's a big deal is his station. And Pluto's station to retrograde is a time when the power condenses. Now, on a collective level, now we have Pluto stationing to retrograde in Aquarius. It's the power of the people, it's the power of the masses. You know, the power of the people that you like and the power of the people that you're not happy about. Both, right? Everybody gets this surge of power. But it's not the power of the government, it's not the power of the corporations. That was Capricorn. It's the power of the people. And so we're likely to see, I don't know if I'm going to talk about if it's going to be a protest kind of thing or something like that, but it'll have that flavor to it. It'll have the kind of, what the masses are saying, what the masses are looking for. That's on the collective level. On a personal level, people get a little pissy when Pluto is stationed, right? Because you want your power. That's the thing. You want your power. That's okay, but I want my power. And the other person over there, they want their power. And so there's a little bit of a potential for power struggle simply because we all want power and autonomy and the ability to do our own thing. A good strategy, naturally, is to do your own thing, but don't expect others to come along, right? Give others their space. You don't have to make a big deal out of anything. Give people their space. Give people their space, and you take your space for you. I'm saying probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday, spilling into Monday the 5th. It's a good idea just to kind of, recognize that things are likely to be a little bit extra. Now, things were a little extra on the week of the last week, the whole thing, the whole Mars, Sun, Pluto T square that was operative from Sunday all the way through Saturday. And I'm recording this on Friday afternoon Eastern time, and there was a lot of stuff this week that was really quite disturbing. There's a lot of stuff every week that is quite disturbing, of course. So, but there were some things that really popped out. I don't like to make a list of unfortunate things, but there were some real unfortunate things that happened this week that we could attribute to the tensions here. If you if you look at, I have to mention the massacre in Kashmir, India, as being a an example of things really going wrong. And exactly, it's Pluto, it's Mars, it's a quasi-military kind of thing, and that happened early in the week. And there's been a lot of stuff. This week has been, as every week has been lately. It's interesting to me that we have every week at least something. Last week we had that T square. This week we got Pluto station. Next week we got the Scorpio full moon. We always seem to have something that is making it a little extra since the beginning of the year. The difference now is that we don't have the retrogrades anymore. We don't have Mars retrograde. Mars is getting ready to clear the shadow of his retrograde. Um, and what we're seeing is that things are moving forward, not necessarily in a direction you're happy about, but things are moving forward. And there's, I find that what we're getting now is more diversity of stories. We're getting different perspectives. It doesn't seem like any one group is feeling things are particularly hopeless right now. Everybody is getting in that fight mode. Mars is direct. Neptune is in Mars sign of Aries, which of course you can check out the video if you haven't on Neptune and Aries. People are feeling, I want to go fight about this. And really Mars in Leo and Neptune in Aries. This is a real combination for, we're gonna go fight on all different levels. Mars, of course, does not it's not a very verbal planet, likes action. Neptune doesn't care very much, so it can go both ways. But what I'm seeing is since the retrogrades are over, is that people are really feeling that they're ready to get their fight on. And I think that is going to continue, and it's going to continue fairly strongly as we go through the month of May. So, it's the same thing every week. I don't even know why you bother tuning in anymore, right? It's the same thing every week. Things are tense. Try to keep your cool. Be aware that not everybody is going to keep their cool. You know, Try to enjoy Venus and Aries.